Okay, so we're in day 4 of hyperbolas. So the first 2 days we spent graphing. The third day we actually learned how to create the equation and then graph it. So today we're going to first complete the square and then graph it. So for this hyperbola, we're going to find the center of the foci, the vertices, and the asymptotes, and then we're going to graph it. But as you can see, it's in polynomial form and not in standard form. So how do I know this is even a hyperbola? Well, when you classify conic sections, you look at the coefficients in front of x squared and y squared. And because one is negative and one is positive, you know it's absolutely going to be a hyperbola. Okay? If they were both positive and they weren't the same numbers, it's an ellipse. If they're both positive and then they're the same number, then that's a circle. So I can tell by those being different numbers and being negative that this is a hyperbola. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is complete the square. Okay, so for this one, just like we've completed the square a bunch of times, we're going to group our x's and group our y's. I'm going to group my y's first, and you'll see why in a second. So this is 25y squared minus 250y. And then I'm going to group my x's plus negative 16x squared minus 32x equals, and I'm going to move the 209 to the other side. Okay? So before I can complete the square, I got to get those coefficients out front. So I factor out 25 for my y's, and I get y squared minus 10y, leave some room. Then my x's, take out the negative 16, and I'm left with x squared plus 2x equals negative 209. Okay? Now this is where we complete the square. So we get 25, and then y, divide this in half, so I get negative 5. Then square it, put that there, which is 25. Now I've just unbalanced my equation. So I've added 25 inside times the 25 here, but I've really added a total of 625 to the left side. So I got to do the same thing to the right. Then do the same thing for my x's. So divide this by 2, I get 1. Square it, put it here. I've added 1 inside, but I've actually subtracted 16, so I got to subtract 16 from the other side. And we take negative 209 plus 625 minus 16, you get 400. Okay? So now I've got my hyperbola equation coming along very nicely, but it's got to be equal to 1. So I've got to divide both sides by 400. So divide this by 400. Divide this by 400. And now we're going to reduce those fractions. So 25 and 400 are both divisible by 25, which leaves me with y minus 5 squared over 16 minus, it's the minus, and then 16 and 400 divisible by 16, which leaves me with x plus 1 squared over 25 equals 1. And there's my conic form for my hyperbola. Okay, so the whole reason I put the y first is because I saw that negative in front of the x, and I knew that that was going to be what needed to be second. So that's why normally I'd put the x first, but since the x was negative, I put it second. So here we go. Come up here, I'm going to write the equation again. So it's y minus 5 squared over 16 minus x plus 1 squared over 25 equals 1. Okay, which means A is 4, B is 5, and C is the square root of 41. My center is going to be negative 1, 5. This is a vertical hyperbola, so we use the equations, and for the foci, it's going to be negative 1 and then 5 plus or minus c, which is the square root of 41. My vertices are going to be negative 1 then 5 plus or minus a, which is 4. And my asymptote equation is y equals 5 plus or minus 4 fifths x minus 1. Oh, plus 1. Okay? So, just like we've been graphing this entire time before, we start with our center. So we go negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's where the center is. My vertices are up and down 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. That's a vertices. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there. That's my other vertices. My foci are going to be on that same line. Square root of 41's a little more than 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right there. That's my focus here. 5, 6, a little bit. So there's my focus there. Okay. Now we're going to use B to come up with our rectangle. So B is going to be 5. Oop. I messed up there. The focus, sorry. The vertex is only at 4. A is 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The vertex is in the foci are in the same place. Right there and right there. And B is 5. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4 this way. 1, 2, 3, 4 that way. And then that gives us this rectangle like this. And then that will also help us to graph our asymptotes, which are for the diagonals. So you go from diagonal like this, and this diagonal here through the center. The code for today for my kids is S1CK question mark. S1CK question mark. Alright, and then the last thing you got to do just to finish graphing this is, of course, start at the vertices and follow your asymptotes. So you go like this, and it goes like that. And then this one will come this way like that, and like that. And that's your hyperbola. So the only thing that we're adding to, just like the first day we learned how to graph, the second day we had to find the equation so that we can graph it. Same thing with this one, we have to find the equation first by completing the square, and then we got to finish graphing it. So it's just adding one more step before we're just graphing a hyperbola.